What's up, everyone? Tyler DeLuca back here, and today we are talking about the Phoenix Mercury, who have left me positively confused. Is that how I want to deem this? I don't know, but they're winning. They're 4-1. They're third in the WNBA. But before we get into that, did you know? Did you know there's a new women's basketball league coming? I don't know if you knew. But I'm sure you went through the training camp process. You're like, man, I wish this player had a roster spot that they could go and play on. NoCapSpace.BBB.com has all the information you need. Friend of No Cap Space, Fran Harris, is doing this. Article just dropped today. Andrew did a fantastic job. Link is in the description below. Let's talk about Phoenix. Because you look on paper, this team shouldn't be doing this so far. And they haven't played like absolutely incredible competition, and we'll talk about that at the very end, but they're still winning. You got to beat who's in front of you. And so far, they've done that. 4-1, the one loss coming to Seattle, who they've already played and beat once, lost once. I think Seattle has got better since that one game that Phoenix won. But regardless, you still won. I'm not going to take that away from you. Absolutely not, especially with the way that they're doing it. Because if you look on paper, none of this makes sense. So here's the thing. Kalia Copper goes down. Right? Natasha Mack goes down. Okay. Not good at all. Like that, to me, like it I'm not going to say I completely wrote Phoenix off after hearing that, but I'm like, oh, it's going to be rough. Like maybe there's a late season push, like when people start getting healthy, but it's going to be rough. And here we are at 4-1. And it's not just the on-court production that impresses, or that was consequential and is so impressive by those two in different ways, right? Different roles, obviously, but it's what they bring in bridging last year to this year for Phoenix. Because if you look at this roster, it is completely new, except those two. And now that bridge, so Nate Tibbetts, second-year head coach. So like there's experience there, which helps, but there ain't a roster there that's helping him. Like this is completely new all over again, in a different way, but it's completely new all over again. So to be able to be 4-1 right now without Ka, Ka's incredible, right? Natasha Mack, who I thought was actually really solid last year and would probably be, arguably two starters. For sure, Ka, like Mack would probably be starting on this team potentially right now. Like that, those are the type of players that you lost, and it still just hasn't mattered. And it's because of them being able to do the most with the least. And what I mean by that is if you look up and down this roster, you're going to see names that you might not know, or names that you have not heard of in a long time. And I mean that with absolutely no disrespect, because we know how hard it is to get on a WNBA roster. That's why we got a new league coming, NoCapSpaceWB.com. But that we know how difficult it is. Players like Catherine Westfield, Monique Makani, you got Katija Laxka. All these players are playing incredible role player basketball right now. That wasn't supposed to happen. These players aren't supposed to be averaging near 10 points a game. That's not how this is supposed to go. You know what I mean? Like that's not where this is supposed to be. And yet here we are, 4-1, third in the WNBA. And a lot of credit goes to those players, right? Because you have to be ready. And these are players that are at very differing parts of their careers. Like Monique is, I think, 24 and is in her rookie season. Catherine Westbeld is like 29 and is in her rookie season. Like these are, while differing parts of their careers, these are players that are all in their first WNBA stint, right? And to be able to come in and immediately have impact in various ways is super, super impressive. And what's crazy to me is that the Mercury still haven't even been playing their best basketball. I'm pulling this up right now. I maybe I should have been a little more ready to pull this up. But regardless, we're here. Look at this. I'm pulling up the stats over here, right? When you think about the efficiency in the players, like you might be banking on a little bit. Like a Sammy Whitcomb has not been very good. Has started every game, has not been shooting the ball well. The 3-point percentage is at 23, right? On 5 attempts, not great. You have to still keep winning. That's because of these other players. That's because of these role players. That if you look on paper, this team should not be doing this. I can't emphasize that enough. So how? It's certainly part of these role players, right? And being able to, even with the cap space you've invested in these star players, even especially with the draft assets and what you've done, because Phoenix changed ownership, win now immediately, right? And they're like, you're able to go and get a player like Ka. You obviously you trade your assets to get Satou, to get AT in. Like those are the type of moves that you make. Because of that, you get your stars. But how do you surround them? They have done a fantastic job of surrounding them with exactly what they need. But ultimately, this success to me does come down to those stars. I want to start with Alyssa Thomas. Look, we know where Alyssa Thomas's deficiencies are. We know that there's a lack of floor spacing. We know that. Everyone knows that. The WNBA knows that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The stats that she's still able to pull up, even with such a clear non-factor aspect of her game, is so incredibly impressive. The team that is guarding Alyssa Thomas knows exactly where she's headed, and it does not matter. It doesn't. Her ability to play the angles, her ability to use her own strength just to power through and get to the rim is so incredibly impressive and so incredibly important for what this Phoenix Mercury team is doing to succeed, because the amount of gravity that she takes up is so massive. And so you leave these players open on the perimeter that, again, you probably don't respect. You don't know their names, and yet they're killing you. They're killing you. And that has so much to do with what Alyssa Thomas is doing. And that's just on the offensive end. We're going to talk about the defensive end here in a little bit. But I also want to talk about Satou Sabally, who has not been the most efficient. She hasn't. Yet, I don't care. I don't care. And it doesn't really seem like Phoenix cares either. And that's part of what might be the most confusing aspect to me. Is that, normally speaking, if I have a player that's shooting, let's see, she's shooting what? 16 shots a game at 38%, 27% from three, 1.8 makes 6.6 attempts, right? That's not good. However, I don't care. And the reason for that is the gravity. Again, the way that you have to respect the offensive player that is Satou Sabally on this Phoenix team. Because frankly, who else on this team is going and creating their own shots outside of those two players right now? Obviously, when you bring Colin, that's a completely different factor you're bringing into this. But so far, you don't have really anybody else. So, yeah, she's taking 16 shots a game, and I just don't care. Because it's working. Whether it's players feasting off the scraps of misses or allowing her, the prowess of Satou to get themselves open, I could not be more confused and impressed at the same time. And I don't know if I've ever felt this way about a basketball team, especially so early on in the season, where, again, none of this makes sense. You're showing me things that normally I do not like, and yet you're 4-1 and third in the WNBA. And it's more than just the offense. It has to be. And it is. The defensive side of the ball, they're one of the best teams in the entire WNBA. If you look, 74.6 points per game allowed from the opposing team. That's the best in the WNBA. You have one of two teams, right? It's them in New York that are top 5 in both steals, which they're second in, 10.2 steals a game, just below the number one team. I think it was Golden State, who was at 10.3, just below. And then you're third in blocks with 4.8 a game. The activity on the defensive end is allowing them to make their lives easier on the offensive end, where things might get a little bit shaky. And then you still have your star players that can go and get other people open, that can go and get their own. And the play, and I think maybe now more than ever, we are seeing the importance of the engine that is Alyssa Thomas. And we certainly have appreciated that to a point in Connecticut. I mean, she was in MVP races in the past couple of years, things of that nature, all WNBA, all that stuff, all-star, you name it. All that stuff has been there. But this is a team that should not be succeeding in the way that it is so far. And yet it is. And I just can't help but think about the engine that is Alyssa Thomas on both sides of the ball, because they continue to overachieve. Now, the test is here. The test is here. The Fitnessgram Pacer test is here. because Nafisa Collier is here. 2 of their next 3 games are against the Minnesota Lynx, and this is when we will find out who are the Phoenix Mercury right now, because Minnesota looks really, really, really good. Really good. And again, I thought the Seattle game, the first one they beat Seattle, Seattle got much better very quickly in this season. And even the second game, I thought Seattle was much better. But Phoenix beat them, right? Phoenix caused a lot of those issues that they had early on in this season. It's obviously very early, but I could not be more intrigued to see where this Phoenix Mercury team goes, and frankly impressed by how good all of their players have been early on in this season. Again, when they're playing against a true we know it contender this week against Minnesota, we'll find out. We'll get a little bit better of a test to see where they are. But right now, they're 4-1. They're 3rd in the WNBA, and I could not be more impressed. So make sure you stay tapped in here on No Cap Space WBB. The website, again, brand new women's basketball league. That sounds like something you want to know about, right? NoCapSpaceWBB.com for the article for our ball knowers. And of course, here on YouTube, make sure you stay tapped in, like, subscribe, comment, share, all these things. What has impressed you the most? Or what maybe worries you the most going forward about Phoenix? Where do you stand on the Phoenix Mercury right now? Stay tapped in. All the links down below in the description, and I'll see you next time.